refreshing.
Yeah, it does. It's a nice little palate cleanser. Right, yeah, welcome to today's tasting, online tasting. So, just starting a little late, we just had a few deliveries and things to get done. But today, we were talking about themes, what we wanted to do. And I must admit, Pat came up with a good one. He said he wanted to have a look at the wine show wines from the Barossa wine show. And to see what won and why. So I decided to do a blind tasting. So I have literally blind poured these wines for these guys. My memory is shocking, so I can't remember which is which. So that's all right by me. But I've got the bottles covered and numbered. So we're going to be doing a wine show style judging, and what that literally means is we will be like judges, be judging the wines on the criteria that we put together. Now, first things first, generally wine judges don't be drinking beer before the start of the thing.
Well,
But
we're not wine
This
judges.
is informal.
this is very informal. The other part is, this is not to berate, belittle, or put down any of the judging that occurred in the Barossa wine show last year. There was quite a big outcry on the wines, the winning wine particularly, which was the best wine of show, which was a Shiraz from Barossa, but it was a very inexpensive Shiraz, and especially up against $80, $100 bottles, that's almost unheard of. But whatever shows best on the day is the wine of the day.
Do they do blind tastings?
They're all doing blind. We're doing exactly as if they're doing it, except with the beer side of it. In fact, even the nibblies are generally there to refresh the palate. So when you're doing between 120 to 160 wines a day, you can be generally really, you'll need something to clean your palate off. Normally we would have spittoons and spit buckets, because the way we taste is we sip, swirl, spit and adjudicate. However,
It's against COVID regulations.
it's not quite against COVID regulations, but however, we are not going to do that today because we are informally doing this and we're going to be drinking. Actually, if I could ask a favour, Dan, can you just grab 3 pens, because we are going to need them. I just realised I haven't put the pens out. And while you do that, I'll talk about why we're judging the way we are. So, firstly, if anyone here knows about wine judging, you'll see these things. They're called ISOs. If you ever get served these in a restaurant, essentially the restaurant owner has no idea how to serve wine, because this is the glass that you use for wine tasting. Pat, why do you reckon we use this glass, this particular style of glass, for wine tasting?
Bring the nose to a kind of point, rather than like a big red wine glass. Small serving styles,
No, completely wrong. The reason that this glass is used is because it is absolutely useless for bouquet, accentuating things in wine. So therefore, if you had the perfect wine glass for this, and we are doing today Grenache, you'd be looking at a large, bold glass with a bit down the bottom, so you can get the aromas, the bouquets, and all the rest of it. For Riesling, you'd actually have a smaller glass, but still quite aromatic. You'd actually have for Sauv Blanc, pretty much, a very small glass. Yeah. What's that? Oh, yeah.
Sea Groves, cheers, and
Yeah, no, we're...
glad to hear we didn't get COVID.
Yes, no, we were glad we didn't get COVID too. In fact, out of all of us, I think I was probably in the most danger, because I was actually in Brisbane. Luckily, I'm negative.
Yeah.
But that being said though, so these glasses are the most useless glasses for showing wines better than others. So therefore you can taste a Sauv Blanc in this and it will look good, or it'll look at least like a Sauv Blanc. Or you can even have a red and it will not make any one wine look any better. That's why it's standardized glass. So that's the major part. Now I'll just run through the judging criteria. All wines start with a baseline of 80 points. We're using a 100-point judging system. The reason we use 80 points is because it's 80% of the work to get the grapes from the vineyard into a bottle. Essentially, that's it. So, therefore,
It's in a bottle.
It's in a bottle.
It gets 80
It gets 80 points. However, any faults that it shows immediately reduce it to less than 80 points, and will never get point allocations given to it. So if you're looking through wine show points, which I do all the time. If there's no score or says not judged, generally that means the wine's got a fault to it somewhere and is generally pulled from the competition.
So that's the wrong colour.
Wrong colour. It could be too much volatile acidity, or Brettanomyces would go through the
But you'd
the
still
wine.
have to taste it to...
You would. You taste it. You go, that's terrible. That's a fault.
So instead of just writing,
So instead of writing 78 points
Yeah.
Brettanomyces, because that would really destroy the reputation
Yeah,
of a thing, or it could be
Yeah,
just
it's
a really bad bottling of that
NA.
particular thing. Yeah, you wouldn't
bad
judge it.
cork or anything.
The Barossa Wine Show freaked me out a little bit because wines that didn't get a trophy didn't get points. So I actually rang up one of the winemakers today and asked him. I said, "Why didn't you get any points?" He goes, "Well, I don't know." He said, "We didn't get a trophy for that one. We got points for it." And I went, "Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see any points." And that's what it was. It's because the Barossa Wine Show only shows the trophy points: bronze, silver, and gold. That's
Yeah.
it. So that really spun me out at first. So I was like, "Oh, okay." Now, this is something both you guys are going to have to take some note of. When we're walking through wines, when we're doing these wines, we'll be judging them in regards to the varietal style, but we're going to judge them on balance, length, intensity, complexity, typicity, and wow factor. So, balance, I've got the sheets here for us to do the check on. Balance, you get up to 4 points. And the balance is the sweet flavours to the dry flavours. Sweet flavours being fruit and alcohol, dry flavours being acidity and tannin. You can also judge internal balance as well in primary to secondary to tertiary character. So if primary character, for example, is lovely red fruits, but secondary character is overwhelming it with oak, that would make it out of balance. So therefore you're judging not just sweet to dry, but you're judging primary fruits to secondary and tertiary notes as well. Length is the amount of time it lingers on the palate. That's essentially the simplest way of doing it. And is it pleasing?
It's balance. What covers the mouthfeel and the
Palate weight and
Palate
mouthfeel.
weight.
Yep. So that'll come to the next one, which is intensity.
oh, okay.
So intensity is flavour intensity, fruits, tannins, acidity, palate weight, palate feel, things like that. Again, that's 4 points. So it's 4 points all the way down so far. Complexity, the number of different flavours in the spectrum of primary, secondary, and tertiary. But as I said, it's also related to balance. So you will be going, oh wow, I really love it. It's got lots of sweet vanillas. It's got lots of red fruits. It's got quite a lovely balanced acidity to it. Oh, actually, it's probably quite simple in its fruits, but there's a lot of oak over the top of it. So whilst it might be intense oak, that's actually a detrimental thing rather than a positive thing, depending on the varietal styles.
It puts it out of balance.
It puts it out of balance, yeah. So, but intensity is still very important, and complexity is very important. Typicity, is it typical of a Grenache from Barossa? Essentially, that's worth 2 points. 1 point being, does it taste like Grenache? Second point being, does it taste like a Barossan Grenache, or a Grenache from Barossa? Does it show the terroir of Barossa? Now, that's a little bit harder to do, but if you're familiar with the wines of Barossa, or familiar with the region, or particularly the terroir around Barossa, you will understand what you're looking for. I don't expect you guys to pick up that straight away, but is it typical of Barossa? And what your head says Barossa is going to adjudicate that. That's for 2 points. And finally is your own personal assessment. Do you like the wine? Would you drink this wine yourself? Do you think this is a humdinger of a wine?
These are all Barossa?
These are all Barossan. These are all judged at the Barossa Wine Show.
So these are that's the wow factor.
Yep, that's the wow factor. That's
And
just,
is that one
and that's
point
just a single point.
Yeah.
That can be the differentiation between a 96.1 and a 97.1. Or 95.
That's 1
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yep. So, when it comes to trophies, 85 points and under, it doesn't receive a trophy. So, in that 5 points, it'll be an acceptable, 80, 84, 85 will be an acceptable wine, commercial grade quality, free from significant faults. But then you're going to go from 85 to essentially 90, or 85 to 89, and that'll be a bronze medal. From 90 to 94 is going to be a silver, and 95 and up is a gold. Okay?
Not a lot that separates.
Not a lot that separates, but remember, if someone said, why don't you just do a 20-point system? And I said, no, I can see why. If you said this wine's 5 out of 20, you think it's crap.
Yeah.
Or if you think it's 10 out of 20, oh, it's not great. It's just very average,
middle of the
ordinary.
range. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. So that's why they had the 100-point system. It's for consumers and producers as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to get a small history lesson
Plus, it was
on
out,
Grenache.
out of 20, you'd have to be giving it like I'm giving it a
0.5.
2.5.
Yeah. That does happen. But Pat has done some research on Grenache and will be taking over on the Grenache thing. Tell us all about it, Pat.
Alright, from the research that I've done, basically I found that the origins of Grenache are contested between France and Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Spain being Grenache, France being Grenache.
It's Grenache, G-A, there's no R. In Spanish one, and Grenache.
I should take the R out of it.
Yeah. That's why G-A.
Okay.
Grenache.
Okay. Yeah, so it's pretty hotly contested between those two regions for where it originated from. The best thing I've found is it comes from Aragon in one of the original names they found for it was Tinto Aragonus, which is red of Aragon, which means it originated from the northwest kind of region of Spain, and then it's gone north, followed the coastline pretty much through to France and
So along Roussillon, Languedoc,
Languedoc, yeah.
all the way over to Provence, and then going north into the Rhone region.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and apparently it carpets the Rhone area.
Around Châteauneuf-du-Pape particularly, the northern part of the Rhone is all Shiraz.
Yeah,
Shiraz and Cinsault. The southern part is definitely that typical Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
Okay.
GSM, so essentially. Yep.
yeah, and then it was James Busby who bought a collection of cuttings and vines over from the old world to Australia in 1845, roughly, or 1840.
1840s, yeah.
Yeah.
New product, and I don't know what it's called. Manual entry, I'm trying to find it.
You're trying to put an invoice in.
Counterculture. No, counterculture. I'm trying to scan it. And I can't
It's under
find it.
counterculture,
Yeah.
and it is there, yeah.
Yeah, no, I typed in culture and counter.
No, scan it.
Counterculture and I can't
Scan it. I know, I sold one today. Keep going, sorry, sir.
Alright, so, yeah, came to Australia. It was largely used in Australia as a fortified originally. I'm guessing because of the high fruit content, and the region it was originally settled in kind of like I think the culture at the time was more looking for fortifieds as like the normal wine kind of market wasn't there at the point. Took a bit of a downturn with Syrah or Shiraz becoming like, especially in I'm looking more in Barossa, but yeah, Shiraz became the prominent kind of varietal of Barossa. In recent years, it's actually taken probably started with the GSM blend, which was a blend done in France with the Rhone classic blend.
Yeah, so Châteauneuf-du-Pape,
Yeah.
which is Shiraz, Grenache, Mourvedre,
Yeah.
and Cinsault, but Cinsault hasn't been translated over. But yeah, so the GSMs, classic GSMs.
Yeah, classic GSMs, which Grenache makes up in the old world about 50% of their product.
Yep.
And then in Australia, yeah, GSMs, and I think that kind of started the how Australia looked at Grenache. They looked at it as a blending grape, like not so much a single varietal to have by itself. And then from about 2010, from what I can see, it actually started to make a bit of a breakthrough, and a lot of winemakers looked at it, especially for the Australian climate, given that Australia is quite a warm climate wine region. Sometimes little rain. It's actually a really good varietal to have in Australia because it produces good juice in warmer climates with little rain. So they've actually, especially in Barossa, it seems like winemakers have been looking to make Grenache a bit more prominent. And according to Michael Twelvetree, Two Hands Proprietor, he reckons that Grenache could be the renowned grape from the Barossa in a few years, just because of how useful the grape is.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good research overall. Probably the biggest thing, which I know you said to me beforehand, but you didn't mention it now, is probably the biggest thing about Grenache is that the way that our marketing society is going, we're going more away from big, heavier style reds to lighter style. So Pinot Noir has had a massive upsurge in the last 10 years. And Barossa can't do Pinot Noir. But it can do Grenache, which is like a Shiraz drinker's Pinot Noir. It's a bit more fruity than Pinot Noir and doesn't have that real earthy character to it. So it's a lighter but still fruit-driven style that people can enjoy.
Yeah, and that seems to be the marketing point of it. So generally when they started marketing Grenache as a single varietal, they seem to have compared it to medium-bodied Pinot, a heavier style red drink is like a Shiraz or a Cabernet drinker's Pinot.
Yep.
Which I think is pretty apt.
Yeah, it's pretty true actually.
Yeah.
But with that lighter body, it makes Grenache a really good sort of summery style one. You can still have reds without actually being that heavy palate.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you pointed out that you said was in regards to boutique winemakers or smaller winemakers.
Yeah, them being they were the predominant changing factor with Grenache, especially with the marketing side of it, because it's usually the smaller companies. They decide what they like the best. Like even though it's probably not culturally accepted at the time, they're like, this is a nice grape, and they use that, and it builds a slow following until the big wine companies catch on, and then they start flooding the market and capitalize off their hard work. Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a simple way. Like I've always said that retail has been the whores of the wine industry. We don't set trends, we follow them. In here is a little bit different because we have enough knowledge to actually suggest wines that people would be more interested in. We normally go for. But for the most part, we follow restaurateurs, sommeliers, and people who really can influence the nation in the way of drinking wine. So those people like small boutique wineries, and as it catches on, the bigger wineries actually, or the bigger places like Treasury and Accolade, start producing those styles of wine because it's monetarily, economically viable for them. So
It's probably not viable from at the start to try and do that because.
But do you think the overall product takes a hit though if they're trying to flood the market and produce wine that, given that the smaller...
Probably not use the word flood the market, but what they do is there are some really, really smart winemakers in those big companies. And what they do is they see why those wines sell, and they'll be approached and say, Grenache is the biggest thing at the moment. We need to start putting a Grenache out, and they're looking at, obviously Barossa is really good. McLaren Vale is a great Grenache region as well. We can take grape from that and that, buy some grape in, make a Grenache that will be typically what everyone drinks because they'll bench test them. There's a lot of money goes into this. They don't just suddenly make a Grenache. They bench test, they trial it. Is ours worth the same as that? Yes or no, depending on what it is, and then they'll price point it appropriately and then sell it. And because they have such buying power and such production power, they will put their market in, and that's how the name gets out there.
How do they foresee the planting side of it? Because
they don't. They buy.
But excuse me. If there's only so much Grenache planted as it is, and then everyone goes, "Well, we're going to make Grenache." Wouldn't there be a big shortage on the Grenache grapes?
They have a bigger checkbook than you do.
So they just buy it all.
They buy it,
So that would hinder the smaller businesses.
Well, remember, the smaller businesses are the ones who are creating Grenache, and they're generally creating off their own vineyards. So your grape growers will have planted a bit of Grenache, knowing that the other players are, they'll be looking for a bit of Grenache here and there. And Grenache has always been planted. It's always been around the place, but now suddenly there's a big call for it. They might even chainsaw prune some Merlot out, or some Cabernet that's not doing so well at the moment. Graft on top of that. Some Grenache. 2 years' time or a year's time, they've suddenly got a Grenache crop. They can then sell that straight to Treasury or Accolade or one of the big companies, and they'll produce a wine. Salamas is another one that does it. So I think we've held off long enough. I know I'm thirsty. So let's have a look. So we're going to go through wine 1, and with your pens, just have a taste of it. Go through this, write some notes and scores.
You spilled wine all over mine. I don't think it'll work.
Oh, sorry. All right. So
So where do we start? Like
starting on A, it's working way across. I'm just writing on my little panel down here. You can do that over there. So starters, you look at all the varietals. Actually,
Colour-wise.
all have really same depth of colour. Essentially, there's not really much difference between them all.
Oh, there's a couple that are like
Oh, you're
pretty.
Depends where you sit under the light.
yeah. I think they're all pretty much the same. They're all medium. These are all medium bodied. There's no light Grenache in this.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely have a look and see what's going on. So notice that I haven't said the word colour on this at all. When you're evaluating these wines, as in a tasting note to write for WSET or even for a wine magazine or something like that, you'll talk about colour. You'll talk about colour, intensity, flavour, depth of flavor, all that kind of stuff. Not really that big of an issue here, unless there's something very obvious standing out.
Yeah, there's like a dark brown
If there's
one or
a dark brown one or a black one, or
yeah.
you'd actually just look at it and go, okay. And remember, we've only got really 5 minutes per wine to do.
Ooh, we're going to get drunk.
We are going to get... What do you mean we're going?
Going.
Jesus. Right, have you not been here for every other one that we've done? My God. The reason we turn the camera off is generally because we start getting really incorrect. So, let's just go. We've got 5 minutes starting from now. So... By the way, this is the spectrum of 1 to 4 points too. Don't feel like you have to put 1 or 4 or 0, whatever. Okay, it's the spectrum with the balance there.
So this is for balance.
Yep. But yeah, so balance, length.
What's after length?
Length, flavour, lingering palate, intensity, how intense the flavours are, and then finally complexity.
What's up your intensity?
Intensity, complexity,
And then after that?
and then after that, typicity. Is it typical of Grenache? Is it typical of being Barossa? And finally, is your own personal.
Okay.
Okay, so what are you grabbing out of this? So let's just go with balance. How balanced do you think it is?
I thought it was a bit kind of acidic or like there's something that kind of stood out. I'm not sure what it is, but
For me, the oak stood out. There's quite a lot of oak in there, in that vanilla-y sort of oak character. The acidity is there, but I actually find that to be a nice... The sweetness of the fruit, the alcohol is a little bit hot, but the acidity balances off that heat. And the tannins are this soft, easy to round tannins, which you expect from Grenache. So overall, it wasn't bad. It wasn't the best, but it's not bad. Lengthwise, I actually probably underscored the length a little bit because I found it long and pleasing. I really enjoyed the finish.
Yeah.
It was really lovely. But again, it was probably oak sitting on the back palate more than anything else. Intensity-wise, lots of red fruits, lots of oak. That's kind of where it was sitting for me.
Yeah.
Lots of those flavours. Complexity-wise, well, it's got red fruits, it's got oak, cedar, but that oak and cedar can be, well, oak and cedar, it's not oak and cedar, but vanilla bean and cedar is that definitely the oak. So I'll just put that together. Is it complex? It's got some complexity, but it's not huge complexity. Is it typical of Grenache from Barossa? Yeah, I reckon
I think so,
probably
yeah.
is. Yeah,
The fruits.
the fruit
Barossa,
definitely is.
definitely
It's
Barossa.
definitely fruity. Like, it's got that thing.
It's not jammy or...
No, it's not jammy or anything like that, which is good. And would I drink it myself? Yeah, I would actually. I quite like it. So I ended up scoring it about 91 points. That's just me. The argument that I'd be getting, and remember I'm not going to be the be all and end all here. So what did you get, Dan?
Ended up at 94.
94. How'd you get that?
Well, it starts with
Wow
80,
was one,
so-
by the way.
Oh, wow's only one, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that
And
would be-
typicity goes to a maximum of 2.
Oh,
In
okay.
that case, it's going to be wow. So now it's 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's
So you got 91 too. Yeah. Pat, how'd you go?
I got 94.
You got 94. So typicity, complexity 3. I think you'll find the complexity could be greater.
Yeah.
The intensity, yeah, I'd probably agree with the intensity is quite big.
Well, I found the
Length
intensity.
is
The length of, like, I'm not sure you could judge off the how long it lasts or how it is while it's lasting kind of thing.
okay. So I judge it for how long it lasts, but not the alcohol that remains in the back palate. So the fruit flavour dies off.
Oh, okay, so it's the actual length
So yeah,
of
it's the actual length of the
rather
flavour
than-
rather than the length of the alcohol or the
Yeah.
acidity that sits back there. So but you can stay with 94 if you want.
So what's the
No, because that makes sense.
what's the
Like,
points again? 4 for
So 4,
Balance.
4, 4, 4, 2 and 1.
4, 4, 4, 2.
so I'm at 92.
You're at 92. That's all right. That's eminently
solid.
scoreable. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's,
So that gets into that silver category primarily. I think the one probably deserves to be in that area. But we'll see.
Got to taste the rest now.
We'll have the rest of them now. So, and that's the length of time that's really what we've just done then in the discussion. It's a max length of time we could use. Right, let's go to the next one then. Ooh. Wow, that's chalk and cheese. It's got the strangest sort of nose,
Just
doesn't it?
nose on it, yeah.
Because you're sitting there going, oh, there's oak on that. There's got to be some.
I keep thinking it's like the cabana, like
Oh,
there's something meaty to it.
it's very meaty. It's very spicy.
More
As a
shrubs.
counterpoint to that, that is a really interesting thing coming out of the same region, out of Barossa.
Mm.
That's really different. This
Yeah.
one's been picked a lot earlier. The acidity is much more prevalent,
Yeah.
but the spiciness is in there as well.
Tannins quite.
Tannins are a little bit harder, which
Pretty grippy. Like,
yeah, they're quite grippy. So, yeah, What do you actually get, Pat?
still going.
I do need a piece of cheese after that.
Where
You have to judge it. Can you judge it as 0 if you think it's not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
got 93.
Really? Okay.
Actually,
You might want
I'm
to walk.
reevaluating it now.
I'd say you might want to walk me through that one because that's
I got
Very-
87, I got.
87. Yeah, that's solid. Yeah.
That's because I got a no wow factor for me.
No wow factor. Actually, I'm going to drop by a point or two.
has that blue. It's
That's stunning blue. What blue is it?
Cape something.
Cape something.
I threw the pack in the bin.
Oh, bugger. We always like to have food with our wine. Judging, you don't generally get to do that until you have a break. So I'm going to have to go back through that one.
So
I'm going to revisit that later.
I got 89 to 90. Like,
Well, choose.
Like,
Choose
I'll go 89.
89, cool.
Yeah.
Right, Dan, you got 87? I got 88. So, just to give you why, for me, the balance was a little bit out with the slightly higher acidity. Well, actually, quite higher acidity. It was actually probably really nice. If I hadn't had the first one, so let's look at in itself. Light, bright, spicy Grenache, which is really good. In fact, I think it's probably one of the better styles of that. Is it typical of the Barossan style Grenache that I've had previously? Maybe not. But I gave it 1 point for simplicity because it shows some typical sort of Grenache flavours. I did find it to be about the same sort of length as the last one, with the fruit flavours finishing pretty quickly.
And then you get that tannin over there coming back.
Yeah, the intensity nowhere near as high as the last one, but the complexity, it had a little bit more to it, but it had spice, a lot more spice to it, dried spices, simple earth fruits, dried spices, very little oak character to it at all. I would say it must be older oak, if anything.
So what's on the nose? There's a little bit of fruit there. There's something else that's...
Yeah, there's a real spice note, like a dried spice. It's nutmeg, or... Actually, nutmeg's probably the one I'm going to go with. In situ by itself, I reckon that would be a really interesting wine to have, but in a judging situation, it would stand out from the rest.
Yeah, but whether that's a good
thing or not, that would be totally up to the judges, but I actually gave it 88 points. It's not a wine that I would reach for myself, but then again, that's just my way. In fact, that's only a point here or there.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. I mean, I'd put it as a bronze at least. So 88 points as a bronze.
Yep, I got 89.
You got 89, that's a bronze. Dan got 87, that's a bronze. So okay, we're all sitting quite nicely at the moment.
I think it's just because between that and the first one, there's just such a harsh difference.
There is. The first one was really fruit forward,
but it was also pretty mellow. Like,
it also had that oak that was overriding
a
lot of it, and we like oak too. So, right, next up, wine tree. This is back to that more typical Barossa style for me.
Eucalyptus or something in the nose? And dirt. No.
And earthiness.
Earthiness.
So that's really strange. Fruits are a lot darker on that one. So how are you judging it, Dan? How's it going for you?
Good, actually.
Don't get too tied up in this because you really
Yeah.
do. Is it typical of a Barossan style
Typical.
Grenache?
Yeah.
Is it so? Therefore,
I keep looking at how many points I can give it.
Yeah. But remember, it's. Does it look like Grenache, and does it look like a Barossan Grenache? 1 point if it looks like a Grenache. 2 points if it looks like a Barossan Grenache. So yeah, it can be a little bit misleading. So Pat, how did we go for you?
I've got 93.
93. That's a fairly solid effort. Dan, how did you go?
I got 94.
Ooh, Dan liked it.
I like it.
I actually got 92. I'll run through my reasons why, and if you can please argue with me if there's anything. And this is actually what happens once we've done this wines. We actually sit down as a group and we just talk about the wines from our tasting notes. And we're obviously not doing tasting notes here. We're just writing numbers, which is why it's quicker. But for me, nowhere near as intense as the first one. The length though was really, it actually was slightly longer in the palate for me, and was actually really pleasant with that slight spice running into it as well. I found the balance is about on par with all the others. They're all they're balanced, but they're, in some cases like that one was too oak, that one was too much acidity. This one is probably a slightly better balance, but I'd probably score it the same. Complexity wise, I actually found this one to be a lot more complex than the last two, only because I've got dried spices, red fruits, and black fruits sitting in there. The black fruits were something that were on the nose. When you smelled it, you went,
the black fruits were the prominent one.
yeah, that's black fruits, and then there's red fruits sitting in there. So I actually quite liked it. I thought it was really good. It is one I'd reach for again. And is it typical of Grenache? Yes, it is very typical of Grenache. Is it typical of Barossa and Grenache? Probably. It might be stretching it a little bit for me.
I gave it 1.
One's absolutely fine. I mean, that's generally you probably look at typicity being only 1 or 2 points. 2 points being when it's like
Well, I was looking for more red fruits if it was like typical
that iconic. But but that's quite delightful. I'd like it. 92 points I got. And Dan, what do you give it?
94.
94. So Dan, that's the winner so far for Dan.
The balance got a 2. I thought it was quite balanced. I love the acid up the front and then the dryness of the tannin at the back. Length, it definitely went right through, come around. What's the eye?
Intensity.
Intensity. The flavours I thought were quite intense.
Yep.
But that's the big dark fruits.
That's what I guess is good. Complexity obviously gets a 3 for the same reason.
Yeah, definitely that.
You thought it was very typical of the region?
I thought it was quite typical.
Yeah, good.
And
you
I
liked it?
definitely liked it.
Cool. Righto, Pat was...
I pretty much had the exact same as Dan, except I found the tannins just a bit kind of chalky or a bit too grippy. Like, it's just...
That's what I love about it.
Yeah, like I was thinking like more for typicity. Like,
I agree with that.
Yeah,
that's
it's just a bit more from a Grenache than I expected. And that's the only reason I'm probably down 1 point on you.
Yep.
Like I'd buy that wine every day of the week.
Yeah.
But
So that's a pretty solid one. That's still silvers. That's high silvers at that. That's pretty impressive. The one thing I do like about it is that the alcohol wasn't quite as high as it was with this one. Even though I think judging it, I reckon the alcohol is exactly the same, but it was a bit better balanced.
it wasn't as warming. Like,
it wasn't quite as warming. So literally, if I was the panel judge,
Davey Stabler. Hey, Davey.
there you go, Davey. If I was the panel judge and you two are my associates, you'd say, I'd actually listen to you and go, actually, I think I'd probably give it another point. And I would actually go, I think
Just to push it over there.
Yeah.
just push it up a little bit.
Yeah,
I would give it a point.
That's probably the difference between a silver and a gold, or a
No,
bronze and
even
a
if it's just
silver.
in the silver section, I'd go, look, that's probably worth 93 rather than 92. If it was sitting on the cusp of 94, both you guys were really for it, and I'm like, okay, well, that'll push it up.
Yeah.
And that happens. However, there's also times when a show judge will actually sit there going, look, I'm sorry, all you guys are wrong.
Yeah.
And make it, or even better is when everybody goes, that's phenomenal, da 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 da, and then he actually explains, no, it's not right because of. And and you go, oh, I can see that.
Would he take counter arguments with his
Yeah, he
stance?
definitely would, but remember, for the most part, these guys are show judges because they've had a long experience of it. You don't just suddenly become a show judge. You actually have to spend a lot of time doing associate
Dang it,
work.
that's what I was hoping to do this weekend.
Well, this weekend I was thinking maybe the
I'll go judge the Black Bud Wine Show.
we could host a Black Belt Wine Show.
It's all made in bathrooms.
Must be in bathrooms or it's nothing. So Dan, I think we've been pretty much on the mark so far for everyone. What's your 93?
I got 93. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the last one. See what we say about this. Okay.
Sorry, complexity. I keep forgetting what some of them are. Hang on, what's the C again?
Yes. Good old Blick. Okay, how'd you go for your points there, Pat?
Between 93 and 94.
Pick one.
I'll go 94.
Yep. 2, 4, 6.
3, 5, 6, 7, 13, so 93.
Okay. Well, we're all sitting around 93 to 94. Alright, so you got to give your assessment of why that.
Honestly, the thing that grabbed me the first was the typicity. Like, to me, when I think of a Barossa like Grenache,
Yep.
that's pretty much what I think of.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I gave the typicity 2.
Mm-hmm.
Intensity, it's quite intense. Like,
Agreed. Yep.
it hits you right at the front, so I gave that 4. Balance, there was something that just kind of stood out. I couldn't really pick what it was.
For me, it was the oak and the alcohol
Yeah.
was quite high.
Yeah, I think it's the warming of the alcohol. Like, so I gave that a 3. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Complexity, I gave it a 3 because like there was some dark fruits, there was some red fruits,
Mhm.
but a little bit of like herbal, like something.
There's some herbal quality.
Yeah,
too,
something herbal in there.
Yeah.
And wow factor, I gave it 1 because I like that. I think it's
Yep.
brilliant. So I got.
You seem to be
94.
missing the length.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Length?
Oh. Okay.
But you just didn't comment.
Hasn't commented on length, so that would be.
One second.
This is where Pat pushes it up to like gold medal standard now.
Yes, she's going through the roof.
Length, I'll probably give it a 3.
Yep.
Yeah. So that pushed 12.
That's 97
Yeah.
points.
Okay.
Okay.
Probably the best one that's ever existed. But
Yeah.
So Dan, how are you looking?
93, I thought the balance,
Mm-hmm.
I gave it 3. I thought it was quite balanced. Alcohol might be a little higher, but it's...
I actually did. I only gave it 2, but I could be argued with there. And I just found the
Which
oak,
one?
the
I
balance.
gave it 2 originally, but then when I got down to intensity, I thought, no, I think it's more balanced than intense.
You can be intense and balanced.
Hmm.
It's possible to do that.
Well, the intensity, I find it quite like fruit-wise, a
Hang
like
on.
sort of balanced, easy-going wine.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'll actually be happily pushed up by a point for balance because I just found it very alcoholic and very oaky, which is kind of exactly what the first one was
yeah,
for me too.
that's the similar one I found with the heat, the heat from the alcohol.
So I'd be happy to go up by a point for that. Length. You gave it 3 for
I
length.
gave it 3.
What did you give it for
Carries
length?
through quite
I got
nicely.
3 for length.
Yeah. Look, the
Have I
length.
added a?
No, you haven't. 6 marks.
Oh,
Yep.
so I undercut one number 3 though.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that the length was good. I actually gave, what did I give length? I gave length 4 marks. For length, yeah. I thought it was just really, really good. 4 points. It extends out there. There was a little bit of alcohol. Oh, no, sorry. To the life. No, wrong one. I gave intensity 4 points, and I gave length. I only gave length 2 because I found the alcohol to be really hot in the back, which was kind of putting me off a little bit. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. But for me, I wasn't going to give it any more than a couple of points, just because the alcohol was so prevalent, and that was what sort of sat in the back palate. I did give the intensity 4 points. I think that's the most intense one we've had.
Today, yeah.
I think it's the one that shines like intensity-wise out of there. Complexity, it did have a herbal quality to it. It did actually have red fruits to it. It had oak to it, but again, I relate that back to the first one where we had oak in there as well. So I'd push it slightly to 2 points for me, maybe 3. I could probably argue it up to 3. Is it typical Barossa Grenache? Yes. Do I like it? Yes. So I gave it 93, but I could be adjusted by a point. So I could give it to 94 quite merrily.
What about 5 points?
No, I don't think so.
I stand by my 93.
You stand by your 93? Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good. Rightio. So do you want to know what the wines are?
It's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
That's probably a really good idea. You want to grab the bottles over there, Dan? And then we will re-adjudicate with big glasses.
I think I'm going to judge by how much I drank of each wine.
Yes. Okay. Wine number one.
I've got wine number 3.
We got wine number 3.
One number 4.
That's 2.
That's 2. This must be wine number 1.
That's 4.
Wine number 1 is Langmile Rough Diamond Grenache, which is one that we have both, and all of us actually enjoyed quite a lot.
Previously.
Now, we gave that one 91 points generally across the board.
Yeah.
It got 85,
Yeah.
which I think's a travesty.
Yeah.
But, that being said, though, on the day it may have shown, look, it probably is. Wine judges have a tendency not to like oak. They don't like a lot of oak sitting on their wine. They like oak in places where oak should be. Is that
Like
how it's
Chardonnays
explained?
and...
Chardonnay is, as long as it's not too over oak. Shiraz, Cabernet, they like good oak on that. But in Grenache, they want it a bit more fresher. They want more brightness. They want it to be a little bit lighter.
So that
To be-
sits in line with the farming aspect more than the winemaking aspect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what wine judges go for. So that may have marked them down, especially as this one did show quite a bit of oak. Which I'm an oak fiend, I do love them. So I like it. I would give it a silver, but I can understand why it only received a bronze. Okay. Next up, wine 2. This one was sent to me today, and this is Paisley's. Now this was a really different one for me. I gave it a bronze. I think it received 86 points. It received a bronze for the wine show. I can understand that because it is really, there's a bit of nail polish to that. There's a bit of, so you know, that,
Harsh.
yeah, that nail polishy VA or volatile acidity. Like, can you smell nail polish?
Well, I can't smell nail polish, but it's definitely has a volatile sort of
Yeah, it's got a very volatile acidity to it, which is that nail
Nice.
polishy sort of character.
thinners.
Thinners, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely
So-
paint thinner. That's probably not what you want your wine to be associated with, though. It's like,
Probably.
it's got a hint of paint thinner.
No, that's actually a VA. That's an issue in the fermentation. But I thought that was quite good. I felt like the flavours. I did enjoy the fact that it had spice to it. It was lighter than it was probably the lightest wine out of all of them, which I envisioned
Would you
Grenache
say
to be.
that's more of an old world style, like
Yes.
put together?
Yeah, I would actually. Except for the VA part, I would say that's a lot more old world in the way it's the winemaker is viewing the wine.
But the spice to me made it seem more Shiraz based, like coming out of Barossa though. Like that's what I kind of imagine the typicity to be.
Yep.
Something to add a bit more spice to it.
Yeah, so I'd say that was probably the most dichotomous, or the different one from the others, which is why I've got 88 points for me. I'd give it a bronze. I think it deserved 86 points. I could be argued down.
They got 86 points.
They did get 86 points for it.
I would give it 89.
Yeah,
I
would actually.
87.
Yeah, I'd actually give it. The volatile acidity probably drags it down by a couple of points. But the volatile acidity does turn up in a lot of wines from Barossa. It's one of those unfortunate things that you've got to spend a lot of time watching your ferments to stop volatile acidity occurring. We'll go into faults later on. Wine number 3. Here we go. This is Turkey Flats Grenache. Now, Turkey Flat has always had a really, really good name for Grenache. They, in fact, if you ever go to the Turkey Flat Winery, at the front they've got these really gnarly Grenache bushes. They're just, it's awesome looking place. And then renowned for their Butcher's Block GSM. In fact, their Butcher's Block GSM got like one of the highest scores.
Yeah, I saw that on the Barossa Wine Show.
Yeah. I did give this one 92 points. I actually thought it was very good. I think overall we actually gave it 92, 94 and 93. So that was actually Dan's pick for the day, essentially.
Well, I gave it 94 as well.
You gave it 94, did you? Okay.
Oh, actually, no. I think it went down to 93.
You went down to 93, yeah. I think it's a really well-made wine. I think it shows true of what Barossa and Grenache is. I think it's very typical.
Love the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think unfortunately that'll develop over time a lot better.
to get some more tertiary characters.
I
Yeah.
reckon that's going to be just some really lovely. In a year or so, I reckon it's going to be even more stunning.
Yeah.
And that would probably, I think, from today's judging for me, the last two wines are the standouts. And this last one is the one that got 97 points. So you nailed it. Well done, Pat.
Billie Holiday.
97 points from the Barossa Wine Show. This was
That's because you missed out on the whole category.
whole category. I'm sitting there going, my God.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, the others you actually got.
No, because I did take in the first,
Yeah.
length of the first one I did. So, yeah.
So, 97 points from Pat. I could be argued up to 94 quite merrily.
I'd go up another point.
You go up another point, so 94. So, you're looking at generally between us probably going to 95.
Yeah.
Mind you,
So-
it was the first one I actually finished. So
Yeah.
that's
I loved it.
well.
Sorry, I'll
I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
just double check that actually.
Yeah, I need to.
Oh, you do too.
I need
okay.
to refresh.
Oh, who'd have thunk we needed to refresh these things?
Is Rose coming?
Yeah, she's coming. That's what the 4 glasses are over there for.
There's a breathing nicely.
Yeah, they'll be lovely and involved, but hope she gets you.
Why is it when you pour mine, you keep spilling it?
I don't know, man. It's just one of those things.
And I got to say, I was skeptical of the
Oh,
last
well,
one,
true.
the Bond.
Yep, I was.
And I'm
Well, the
absolutely
thing
taken
was,
back.
that's why I did it blind, is because
Yeah.
we didn't know which one was which.
Yeah.
And in fact, the truth be told, I didn't even remember which one.
I'm honestly so, not sad, but I gave the Langmals, not a low score, I think I still gave it 92
You gave
or
it
93.
it's a silver part.
Yeah, it's, for the price range,
Yeah.
it's still brilliant. What's
So
the...
you don't take that into account for the.
Yeah,
Well,
well, see,
let's
that's
hold
one thing
on.
I don't think...
Let's be just. This is something I decided to increase the irony for. So $20. I think 25, 25, $20.
Really? $20 for that people?
$20.
Yep.
Jesus. Okay.
That's going to be your wine of the month.
That'll be
now,
one of
isn't
the
it,
month
Bar?
coming up.
Well, I can't do 2 Grenaches in a row.
Why not?
Why not? They get to compare Grenache
Yeah,
then.
compare and contrast. So, actually, I think it's.
But
20,
then you
I
guys
think,
got to start ordering in.
Yeah, I think it is 25, but I know that the Pete, the rep, will actually do me a good deal for that one. So yeah, I'd have to say it's well deserved.
Honestly, that wow factor for the P. Lehman, I think that was the only one. I think I gave the Grenache one a wow factor as well.
All of the Grenache ones.
No, the Langmal.
Langmal.
Langmal, yeah,
Langmal
Langmal
was
got a wow.
1?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I gave Langmal 1.
That's the only one I didn't give a wow. It's not something I would buy for myself.
I didn't give a wow to...
No, that one.
Yeah,
I didn't give a wow to 2 and 3.
That one there.
Yeah.
You gave a wow factor for that one.
yeah, everything else got a wow. Alright, done.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think
I'm honestly surprised. I think that's a brilliant wine.
well that'll be really intriguing because Monday night we're doing Shiraz with the winner from Barossa Wine Show versus other Barossa Wine Show wines.
So that's...
What's Monday night 7:30?
Yeah, sweet.
I went and changed all your dates. All your dates were wrong.
Were they?
Yeah, you left them all as December.
Oh wow, that's really embarrassing. Did you send it back out?
Yeah.
Oh good.
Alright.
After I worked that out.
Oh, okay. Look, I have to say, I'm actually quietly impressed. I have had the Peter Lehman Bond before, I think the Bond Shiraz, but this
Hey,
one
Benny.
runs ringer in the Bond Shiraz. So, well done to them. And I think on that note, we might just reevaluate these wines again.
I
think so.
That's
Yeah.
quite a successful little test, actually. I thought.
It's a good little test. It's a nice way of doing it because A, you don't know what it is, you can't be...
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant.
And also actually having a structure to follow.
See, now that I have a gauging point, because it's kind of hard when you first go on, because you're like, well, it's 4 points is kind of a hard gauging system to work off, especially when you're critiquing such finer details.
Yeah, and this is where
You can't have a half. You
Yeah.
2 or 3. It's either.
Yeah.
you really need to be really aware of that kind of thing. But the other part is though that it changes every single bracket.
Yeah.
So you do this bracket, you do another bracket of Grenache and another bracket of Grenache, but then you go into the next one, which will be Shiraz 2 years old.
Do they build you up to it though? Do they?
No, well they don't.
They won't go from Cabernet to Pinot in the next bracket.
Not generally, though. They're smarter than that.
Yeah.
Wine shows are smarter. They'll start you in the lights or stuff. But you might actually go from I think one morning we did alternative. We did alternative. Alternative whites, followed by sparkling, which was bloody difficult to change over. So you had to whack down some cheese and some olives and some crackers, particularly crackers. Just cracker by itself, just to try and strip your palate clean. And then going into sparklings. Follow that up with Chardonnays. So everything from really light, sort of light tropical fruit style Chardonnays to big oaky style Chardonnays, and then having to go from there to alternative reds. You have to refresh your palate and go through the whole thing.
I'd have to have a nap.
Us old people, yes. But anyway, so as I said, we kind of have agreed with the wine judges. We probably were a little bit more lenient because we do enjoy oak here. I would honestly think, I think my scores and Pat's and Dan's were all pretty much on par. Just probably we push probably under.
Well, I think yours was down a.
Yeah, I was a little
but
bit
I think
harder.
you're more experienced with things from that region.
Yeah, but I could be argued because I actually reviewed my scores as we were talking about it, and I'm going, should have given that an extra point maybe. And this is what happens: that you might just go blah 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 blah. I'm done.
Plus, you've got to gauge what the one you had. The one we had first, I thought that's okay, but it only got 91.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have sat up a bit higher. The second one was definitely, I've got to give it less score than the one I just scored. Because
reviewing all in retrospect, I'd actually be interested in trying them again and just have it like a frame of reference now.
Luckily, we have bottles we can do that. But here's the thing: I've just tried that again, and the oak is way too prevalent, but the alcohol's not quite as prevalent. The oak is way over the top.
that's after going.
That's after going
coming
from
back from
there. So coming back. The VA on this is now so obvious to me that
it's almost obnoxious.
Not obnoxious, but it's almost, you can see the fault, and all you're seeing is the fault.
Yeah.
Turkey flat is probably the one that I went is more what I personally look for in Grenache, with that lighter, spicier, more peppery style. But this one, deserved winner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they did well.
Done. All right. Well,
Congratulations, Peter Lehman.
Congratulations, Peter Lehman. Well done.
Yeah. You've won the Mulaney Wine Show.
Anyway, drink well, drink Gasabi. See you later. Cheers.
Cheers.